You're racing in one of Sprint Car's highest series, USAC, and with some of the best in the country. What do you think it takes to be competitive and successful in this day and age?
It's a lot of things. You need a good team, you need a good sponsor, good motors, good race cars, and you got to have a good crew. And I have to do my job every night and be on top of the wheel and try not to make any mistakes and qualify good, heat race good, and try to win the feature every night.
Did you say anything about the fans? They got to be there cheering you on, huh?
Yeah, that's important too. Obviously, we couldn't do it without the fans. They're important, and the racetracks are important, and obviously, like I said earlier, the sponsors are very important for us too.
So, John, I hear you're close to 200 wins in a sprint car. Do you remember your 100th win? And if so, how'd that make you feel? And when was it and where?
Actually, I do. It was at Hobstadt, Indiana, and don't remember the date or the month, but it was really cool. A lot of the fans were there and made a big card up with my name and the 100th win, and a lot of the fans signed it. And my mom was there and made a checkered flag up with the 100th win, and also KO made a little plaque up with a $100 bill on it, and so it was neat to be able to get that at Hobstadt. And I remember they were celebrating their anniversary of, I don't know, I think maybe it was their 25th anniversary or maybe it was their 50th anniversary, but they were celebrating that on the same night, and so that was kind of neat that we got to do that all together.
About how long ago? Maybe like 5 years ago, or roughly?
Yeah, I'd say it was maybe 6 years ago.
Well, that's cool. KO, Kevin Oldham?
Yep, Kevin Oldham. And when we get close to that 200th win, I'm going to see if he can print me a $200 bill for that next award.
What about that 200th win? Do you have anything, have you thought about that? And if so, what do you think you might plan for that?
No, I mean, I've thought about it a little bit, but I try not to dwell on it too much. I know when that 100th win came, I know my mom and some of the fans knew it was coming, and I didn't want to jinx myself. I didn't want them to jinx me by, maybe having that billboard there on a night that I might not win. So, it's in the back of my mind. Hopefully I can get it before the end of my career, and other than that, I mean, I really haven't thought about it too much.
That brings me to a question, something you said, the end of your career. Now, you're still young in my eyes. How many years do you think that you would love to be racing?
I don't know. I think, I hadn't really thought about that either.
Are you happy still racing?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you're having fun, you're enjoying what you're doing, I'm going to do it as long as I'm having fun and enjoying it. And I said I don't think too much about that 200th win, but that could be a possibility. Maybe when I get that, maybe I'll decide, well, it's time to quit. But, I won't know that until the time comes.
You still get an adrenaline rush when you put your helmet on and your race suit and go out in front of some of the special events? Does it make you feel, I don't know, maybe young is the word? Some of the young kids that start racing, they probably have adrenaline. Do you still feel that way for some races? Yeah,
I think I still feel the same way every day that I get in the car now that I did, 10 years ago. I still have that drive and that fire to want to win races, and there's adrenaline there, but when you win the races, that's when your adrenaline really comes up.
I seen you get excited a couple times this year. I wasn't there for all of your wins, but some of them took place out of state and I couldn't be there. But I seen you a little more excited than normal after a win, so that was pretty neat for me.
Yeah, I mean, it'd been kind of a little bit of a dry spell, so when you have that long period of time when you don't win a race and then you finally win one, it's definitely more exciting for me than if you were winning every week. Not that it's not exciting then, but it just feels maybe a little bit more rewarding, or it's been a long time coming, so you probably celebrate and cherish that win a little bit more.
So, one of my favorite things in sprint car racing is the 3 and the 4 wide salute, depending on if it's non-wing or wing. I don't know what it is and why it's my favorite thing, but I think it's the crowd and the fans that stand up, and it makes me excited that they're there to support the drivers, and the drivers are there to salute them. What goes through your mind that lap before the green flag drops for the first time? Is there anything that you think about? I always wonder what you guys are thinking about. Maybe it depends on who you're starting next to, or are there certain races where maybe you got more on your mind?
I don't think I have any more on my mind than I would at any other race. It's all, you got to focus on what you're doing. The one thing about doing the 4 wide, a lot of times we go to racetracks that maybe are a little narrower than others, and when you try to line all of those cars up 4 wide and not run into each other, that's a little bit concerning. But once you break out of it and get back into your 2 rows, you focus on what you've got to do. But me personally, I kind of like the 3-row salute to the fans a little better. It gives everybody a little bit more room, and you don't have to worry about so much getting into the wall if you're on the outside, or getting into a car if you're in the middle, or getting into a tire on the infield. So 3 wide I think's much better.
Have you ever seen anyone wreck on the 4 wide salute?
Actually, there have been some wrecks in the 4 wide, and the drivers have gotten pretty upset about it, because it is, you're trying to put 4 cars in an area where they don't always fit, and obviously that's why they wrecked. So again, that's why I say I'd just as soon do the 3 wide.
So, John, I have some questions. I think most are fun, harmless questions. One's kind of a serious one, but the first one is, I want to know, what's your favorite racetrack in Indiana?
People ask me that all the time, and I really like all of the racetracks in Indiana, but I guess if I have to pinpoint one particular track, I'm going to have to go, with Terre Haute. But all of the racetracks have something special that means something special to me. I mean, Bloomington was where I won my first feature, and Kokomo is pretty special, because when I started first going to Kokomo, it was so hard for me to go up there and race that racetrack the way I needed to race it. And when I finally won my first race up there, it was really gratifying to be able to go up there and finally run that racetrack the way you're supposed to run it. And that 9 times out of 10 is right against the fence, and it can be intimidating. So those 3 definitely, I think, are my most favorite.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, because I've only been here one season now, and I'm finding out that each one is unique, like you said, and that is not a fair question, but it's one of those where, if you had to pick, and like from a photographer perspective, I think Lawrenceburg's my favorite, and as far as racing action, if I was forced to pick, it'd be Haubstadt, but Kokomo's obviously a close second. And thank you for your answer, though. I agree. Very, very diverse tracks here. Some small, some big, right?
Yeah, and you're right about Lawrenceburg. Obviously that racetrack's different now than what it used to be, but that racetrack actually has a special place in my heart too, because I won my first USAC race at Lawrenceburg. So, but that was when it was a small quarter mile, and like I said, they've changed that racetrack now to where it's probably a big 3/8, and it's a lot faster than what it was back then.
Well, this one's more on the, you probably don't want to remember side, but what's the worst mishap that one of your top 3 worst mishap that you've had in your career of racing?
Oh, I don't know. You like to forget about those things, but
Like to bring them up?
yeah. Knock on wood, I've only had a couple where one time I got knocked out and it completely destroyed the car.
Where was that?
That was at Bloomington. And once at Haubstadt, I broke shoulder blade. But knock on wood, I've been pretty fortunate that had good good safety equipment and good seats and good cars, and never had anything really terribly bad.
Tell me, John, this one's kind of fun, and some people take it seriously and others just usually have a funny answer. Who's your favorite, I want to know who your favorite USAC driver is. It can be past or present. If you want to say a past and a present, fine. And then who's your favorite World of Outlaw driver?
I'd have to say my past favorite USAC driver. Man, that's a tough one. I really like the history of sprint cars, and
Name off a couple.
I really like Jimmy Oskey, and he's not a USAC driver, CRA driver. I know he run a little bit of CRA. Leland McSpadden, and the Outlaw guys. Shane Carson was always one of my favorites. Steve Kinzer. Man, it's hard to pick. There's so many of them, and like I said, I have a passion for the history of sprint car racing. So
It's all behind us right here, a lot of it.
yeah. So and then hadn't really thought about any of the present drivers, but
maybe up and coming people that you, I mean, you're modest, John. You're not conceited at all. So at least that's what I've gathered from watching you. So, in your opinion, just watching maybe a fellow race car driver, or maybe some kids, is there anyone that you say, wow, that kid can drive, or maybe you don't want to say names, but
well, I think there's more than one. Actually, there's a lot of different kids that run it at different racetracks throughout Indiana, and then some when we go travel throughout the United States. There's a lot of young kids, and there's a handful in each state and each group of racing, and they're obviously the future of racing. So you got to have those young guys coming up, and sometimes you don't like it because they come in and as you've been in the sport for a long time, and it's kind of time to pass the torch on. You don't always like that, but like I said, those guys are the future of our sport. So it's just that's just the way the sport goes sometimes.
Do you ever see yourself wanting to coach a kid? Maybe when you do decide to maybe retire or out of the race car, do you want to still be involved in racing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when that time comes, I'm not really sure. I mean, I've thought about it. I've thought about do I want to go to the races? Do I want to help someone? Do I want to coach a driver, like you said? Or, I've even thought a little bit about, do I even want to be a car owner? I don't know. I think when that time comes, I'll decide then.
You look at your bank account and find out, right? that'll help be a determining factor. And then my last question, just a kind of fun one. If you could live anywhere in the world free of charge, where would you live? Or at least maybe a vacation spot. Where would it be?
I don't think I could live anywhere but right here where I'm at. Me growing up in Indiana and being around all kinds of different race cars and racing, and especially doing the non-wing racing, there's no place else that you can do the amount of non-wing racing in a year that you can do right here in Indiana. As far as a vacation spot, or maybe someplace that I might like to have a house or a piece of property for a retirement, I don't know. I like Arizona. It gets really hot, but that's kind of getting back to your earlier question. I hadn't thought too much about that, and maybe I'll think about that when the time comes too.
Well, what about Australia? I mean, if you could go out there when it's wintertime here, isn't it summer there, and you could still be racing?
Well, that's true, but I can go to Arizona and race when it's winter here. So,
Thank you for your time, Don. And but maybe briefly before we close, I want to know, or maybe fans want to know too, about this really neat the shop that you have. You have a lot of collectible stuff. What made you start collecting all the helmets and race suits? And there's a lot of miscellaneous stuff here.
Actually, like I said, I'm a big fan of racing and love the sprint car history and heritage. And a lot of these helmets here are helmets of mine that I've worn in the past. And I've got one here that's another famous CRA driver, Eddie Worth, and I've got another one, Richard Griffin. And just these things up here on the wall are just pictures of cars that I've driven in the past, and you know, a couple of the CRA drivers, and then I've got a lot of tail tanks and hood pieces over here on this part of the wall. And I don't have everything up that I want to get up, but hopefully I can just keep filling up the walls and maybe the ceilings and the doors, and before you know it, I'll have my own museum here.
You'd be charging admission. So I have another question. I keep saying last question. This is the last one. What I don't like asking some drivers that have won a lot their favorite win. So I won't ask you that because you've had a lot, obviously, coming up on 200 general wins in a sprint car. But tell me one of your top 3 highest paid races that you won. You maybe don't have to tell me the amount of money, but maybe tell me where that was at. And I know you've probably won some races that were in the high, thousands.
Actually, I can give you a couple. One of them was the Mopar Million at Eldora. I don't remember what year that was, but we didn't win the race, but we won more money in that race than we had ever won in any other race that we had won up to that point. But the race that we won that paid the best, actually, if you can see it, is this one, the 30th Annual Pacific Coast Nationals in 2009, and that was the biggest paying race. That one was, I believe, $12,500.
Nice.
Yeah, so that one right there in that car, that's it. And you can see the helmet that's on in that it's up there too, and the trophy's up there as well.
What's the 37 significant?
Man, you stumped me on that one. I can't tell you. I know when I ran the 37 car there, that was, I believe, the car owner's number. And now that I'm running for Mike Dutcher, I think he just had a good relationship with Terry Riggs and carried the 37 over to the car now since he owns it.
Do you want to close by thanking any sponsors that have helped you this 2014 year, or anyone in general?
All of them. I'll just go right down the list. And Willwood Brakes, Hoosier Tire, Chalk Torsion Bars, Butler Built Seats, Sutton Garden, Simpson Safety Equipment, Surf and Sprint, Competition Suspensions, Indiana Underground, Checkered Pass Machine, Show and Field Headers, Vanderweer Construction, Woodland Auto Display, Jockish Flowers, Maori Heating and Plumbing, A&A Machine, Brad Penn Oil, and some of our biggest ones were MP Environmental Service, Griffin Propane, and I think I got them all. AED Motorsports, D&D Oil, Inline. Yeah, we've had more sponsors this year than I've ever had in the past any year. So it's always hard to try to remember them all. But I think I got them all that time.
So thank you, John.
Thank you.